So I think at this point we've all heard about the supposed Prismatic Evolutions ETB reprint that is coming from one source on YouTube. Other than that, really haven't heard anything, but there's been multiple people that's covered, I guess, this topic, including myself. I've talked about kind of my thoughts about the reprint, and I wanted to further expand on that topic of the reprint and talk about something in the space that I've mentioned before, and I feel like it is important because I feel like a lot of people are quick to make decisions based on, I guess, people online and their advice, when you got to understand, I guess, the biases that, I guess, some of these people's opinions could be coming from. And that's what I wanted to caution you here today. I'm not discrediting, I guess, the person where they got the information from, because I don't believe they have bad intentions. I don't believe they're lying. But sometimes the way people present information may be a little bit misleading. So I just wanted to give my take on, I guess, that whole reprint news. I know I talked about it, but I wanted to further, I guess, dive into the biases that some people may have and how you should be careful, I guess, how you take people's information and be aware where they are coming from. So obviously I'm talking about Danny Phantom. He's a YouTuber. Nothing against the person. I think he's actually a good person. I think he has good intentions, so I am not, I guess, saying anything negative about him. However, I want you to understand, when you're watching people from this investing space like me, and when you're watching people from the collecting side like Danny Phantom, our perspectives are going to be very different, and we're going to have our biases, and we are going to present information in our own way that, I guess, sort of aligns with what we believe in. And for him, on the collecting side, he's going to probably be a little bit more biased towards, lower prices and all these sorts of things, and not really, I guess you could say, inducing, I guess, negative information or sort of things that would maybe cause more FOMO. But I want to kind of talk about that. So if you watched the video, which I think a lot of people have, about the Prismatic ETB reprint, which, like I said, he's the only one that said it so far. Other YouTubers that I've seen that have distribution, no one has heard anything yet. But like I said, I don't think he's lying about the information. But the way he presented, I guess, this reprint was that it was 100% a reprint, right? And that, it was going to be sizable to the point where prices would drop a good amount. Now, I feel like how he presented the information kind of leaned and kind of gave some sort of, I guess, like, I don't know, some light in the dark that prices would go and correct, I guess, pretty heavily. That prices, whatever they're at now, they're going to go so much further down. Don't worry, guys. And that's sort of kind of how I took it. Maybe I'm wrong about it, but just basically how I took his presentation of the information. It seems like this reprint is going to be pretty big. He doesn't think distribution is going to upcharge a ton, and that this will be pretty readily available. So the point I'm trying to make here with, I guess, how I took the information, how he presented it, is that I feel like if you take his information, right, and you use it, and let's say you're an investor, right, you hear this person saying this reprint is coming, right, it's coming, I think, in a month or something like that, right, and prices are going to go down because there's a reprint, all this stuff, we're going to be able to get all the supply and prices are going to go down. If you take that information, right, that he gave, and you use it to make your decision in investing, let's say you bought some ETBs, maybe at 60, 70, 80 bucks, whatever you bought it at, and you can make a profit now, you might be inclined to, when hearing that information, to sell your product. Maybe sell all of it because you're hearing from this, source that prices are going to go down. We're getting all this product. But let me tell you something. I've done this before, okay? 3 years ago, I think maybe a little bit more now, I had Evolving Skies booster boxes. They hit $220, okay? And I heard from many sources that a reprint was coming. And guess what? I sold everything. And what happened? Reprint didn't happen, right? Now, like I said, I'm not saying he's lying about this reprint. It's possible it's getting reprinted, but the point I'm trying to make is that when you get information from people, you can't always 100% trust their word for it, because they may have biases. He may want to, I guess, exude this positive outlook, right, on the set and prices going down, when in reality that may not be the case. And that's where I want you guys to understand. When you get information from people, be aware where it's coming from and what possible biases they may have. Now, for me even making this video, right, I could, I guess, be biased in the way that I want prices to stay high because I'm an evil investor. I care about money, right? So understand just where you get your information from and how they present it, because I feel like in that video, it could have been a little bit misleading, thinking that prices were going to absolutely crash. However, when you do look at the comments, it seems like a lot of people aren't buying that prices are going to go down much, because it seems like a lot of people in the space kind of have just accepted the fact that that's probably not going to happen, especially with the most popular set in this era. It's a pretty hard, I guess, kind of idea to grasp that prices would go down that much. I'm not saying it's impossible, but I think the whole, like, I guess, idea that some people may have that this would go down to MSRP or whatever, I think is crazy, right? I think it's possible. Maybe $100 it goes down to that, sure. But I don't think it's going to go down to the point where some people really want it to be at around MSRP. So I just want to do, I guess, a little bit of overview of some of the products, how they've been doing recently, and just, I guess, just look at Prismatic Evolutions, where it's been. So as we all know, Prismatic Evolutions, it's been on a pretty consistent just price for, like, across the board for all products. Some have even seen decreases, which is kind of surprising when you consider the facts that the set itself, the cards are still very expensive, but the sealed product have seen some pretty decent stagnation in the past month. And as you can see, this ETB has actually gone down recently all the way to 130. Now when you actually do look at the supply here, you can see it does quickly go back up to around 135, 140s. You can see here there's maybe around 10 boxes listed for around 130. Then on the next page, you can see it does go back up to around 140s. So it is possible this will just jump back up, and this was just a couple of days where some people decided to list for 130. That's possible, but also it could just be people maybe heard about that news of this reprint and sold. That's definitely possible. But yes, ETBs for Prismatic have been stagnant for the past month. I'm very surprised that it's been this long, that they've been around 140, but it shows that possibly there could have been some price fatigue, maybe just a lot of people taking profits. A lot of things could be factors of why that has happened. However, there's been one product that has consistently pretty much gone up, and it's the surprise box. Now, the surprise box, as you can see here in the past month, you compare it to the ETB, right? It's pretty steady growth. Right now, they're selling for around $80+, and there really has been no, I guess, signs of decreasing in price. Like, they've been pretty consistently going up. Sales volume isn't the highest. I mean, it really can range, but you can see here there are sales for $80+. When you look at supply, though, it does look like it's going to go to $85, $90 if there are no more listings that get listed, because as you can see on the second page, it does go up to $90. And if you look at sales volume, you can see around how much they're selling every single day. It really, like I said, can range like 5 to 10 a day. If no one lists, in the next, few days, I think it's possible this goes towards $90. So, surprise boxes, if you're holding on to any, honestly, just looking at how things are going, probably wouldn't sell them. For me, I do have some surprise boxes. I am not planning on selling them at this price point. I do really think that these will creep up to like the 90s and closer to 100 in, some due time here. Really hard to gauge with any of this stuff, I guess, to try to estimate where prices will be at in the near future, especially we do have these, talks of, ETB reprints. Who really knows, but surprise boxes have steadily grown. Now, one product that I have a lot of that I've explained many times are binder collections. Now, binder collections surprisingly have been pretty stagnant as well with the ETBs. They're pretty much the exact same if you look at the graphs, like how they dropped and everything. It's kind of surprising. But, these have been showing up on TCG Player for the low 70s. At one point, they were at $80, but people have listed and prices have dropped pretty significantly. But, once these do sell out in this, I guess, lowest listed of $72, they do go back up to around $75. And if you go on the next page here, you can see it's still around $75, $80. So all this stuff, there's like some weeks, some days where, people list for under market, it gets sold. So yeah, I mean, I'm not really, too, surprised or worried that some of these products have seen slight decreases, because there could be, a couple of people that list $5, $10 under market, and it will make the graph and the charts go down like this, because it's all relative to sales volume. If you look at here, I mean, if somebody has 20 or 30 of these and lists at $70, like, you're going to see a pretty significant decrease as it seems on the chart. But in reality, when you look at the rest of the supply, it's not that big of a deal. Now, another product that has been pretty consistently going up are the booster bundles. As you can see in the past month, these were released, after the initial release day, like they were released a little bit like delayed. So they have gone up to around $80. At one point, they're at 70. These booster bundles at $80, honestly, I don't really see them going too much higher, at least in the near future, because if you do the math on the price per pack, you do 80 divided by 6, that's around $13 per pack. at that point, if you take in consideration right now, ETBs are $130. That is only like $1 more per pack, and I feel like booster bundles, they do have that chance of getting reprinted. And I just think booster bundles in general, just because of that factor, they do have somewhat of a kind of ceiling that they hit, because I'm assuming, other than just this ETB reprint, that these will be reprinted pretty I guess soon. I honestly am surprised that if this was a real ETB reprint, that they didn't just reprint booster bundles. But booster bundles, they have gone up to $80, but at this price point, I really don't think they're going to go up much further. But that's just my opinion, just based on, I guess, just history. Now, lastly here, the poster collections. You guys know, I used to have these. I sold all of them because I knew this product was just so... this is not a product that has a lot of future potential. And I used an example of the 151 poster collections. They're not that expensive comparative to the other products, because there's really no premium with this product. So I sold everything that I had, and it's, I think, a pretty good decision that I made, because I was able to sell these when the market price was around $40 about a month ago. And look at where they're at now. They're at like $35, because just a lot of people list these. They don't really go up that much. Sales volume for these is okay, but there's not that much of a premium with these. So I'm pretty happy I sold all of them. I think that was a good decision. These aren't really doing much. Now, looking at the set list, this is why for me it's kind of surprising. Prismatic Evolutions sealed really hasn't gone up a bunch, and they've kind of just been stagnant. The total set value is still above $8,000, right? If you look at any other set in this era, there's nothing that comes close to Prismatic. So it is sort of surprising that we've seen such stagnation in price for the past month, but it does go to show that buyer fatigue could be a thing, right? Or just there could be a lot of people just taking profits right now. There's a lot of factors, but I think if this reprint, this ETB reprint that's supposed to be coming, is not that big, right? It could be maybe a signal for some people to maybe buy in on that reprint, knowing that how small it was, knowing that possibly that could be their one chance to buy in. And I think that could just be an indication of maybe after the reprint, whatever happens with that supply, maybe more people will buy in, seeing that being a small glimpse of opportunity. Because look at the cards. I mean, the prices aren't dropping. So I still see great potential, and I really think there will be some time in the next month or two where Prismatic sees a pretty big increase in price if we do not get more supply, other than that reprint that I guess is floating around now with the ETBs. But also with that ETB reprint, I guess it could be said that it's not that great of a product to reprint, because there's only 9 packs and there's it's a big bulky product. I really don't know if that thing's a really a reprint. There's been some, I guess, other theories that possibly it's just extra supply from the initial first wave. I guess one thing could be I guess shown with that, if that reprint does come or whatever, if people get cases of the ETBs, if they have the release date on the label or not, that will indicate, I guess, if it's a first wave or if it's actually a reprint. But I guess those are my thoughts about the Prismatic ETB reprint news, and kind of how to take information and be aware of biases that could be present. Like I said, for me, there's biases. I'm an evil investor. From other people, other YouTubers that are collectors, there's also biases there. So just be careful with your decision making. I wouldn't be too quick to just sell everything or do any of that sort of things just because of this piece of information. When there's more presentable information from multiple sources and stuff, I think then it would be a lot, I guess, safer to make those types of decisions. But just on that fact alone, that one, piece of information, don't be scared. Don't be too quick to jump to conclusions and make your decisions, because I've done that before and I've lost a lot of potential profits. So those are just my thoughts about this news. Let me know what you guys think about the reprint. Do you really care about it? Do you think it's going to do anything? Let me know down in the comments below. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.